I thank the member for Canning. The question is that the motion be agreed to. I call the member for Holt.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I rise tonight to support and endorse the remarks and the motion for the member for Franklin, who has moved this private member's motion to recognise World Mental Health Day today, which is the 10th of October 2016. This week is also Mental Health Week, and knowing the number of mental health professionals that I do, it's a very hectic week, but it's a very important week to continue to raise the issue of mental health and mental illness, the cost to the community, the fact that mental illness is in the main preventable and treatable, and that we should do everything we can to remove the stigma surrounding mental health, because that stigma, regardless of the benefits and the strides that we have made, is still costing many lives in this community. And I'd like to pay tribute in particular when I speak about mental health in this Mental Health Week to Professor Patrick McGorry, 2010 Australian of the Year. It's his vision that created the first Headspace, which is going to be open 10 years tomorrow in 2006, and I think it may well have been by the then Prime Minister John Howard. But that was an initiative that was pioneered by Professor Pat McGorry and has basically, I think there are now over 100 sites, notwithstanding some of the difficulties with recent sort of commitments for funding. But they perform a vital service, Deputy Speaker. They literally are saving young people's lives. And the statistics over the past decade, we've had over 260,000 young Australians that have sought help and advice in person, over the phone and online through Headspace. It is making a substantial difference in our community. How it mattered to my community was this. In 2012, and the member for Canning spoke about some issues in his electorate, we had what is known as a suicide cluster. It was devastating to the community. A substantial number of young people took their own lives, and the community was forced to grapple with that, to come together and to work out what it could do to stop this youth suicide cluster. I was fortunate enough to be briefed and encouraged to take some action by an astounding group of Casey's young people through the Casey Study Tour group. And those young people that came to me and spoke about this issue, and there were people that were friends of some of those young people that were sitting in my office that had taken their own lives, their approach and their bravery inspired me to conduct a forum that was led by Professor Patrick McGorry. It was filmed by Four Corners. It was part of a program called There's No 3G in Heaven. It was an important program. It was a confronting program. I certainly commended the Four Corners program for conducting it at the time. And I commend the courage of the mums and dads that came along to that forum that had lost young people. Enormous courage. Courage that we can't comprehend in this place. And through their commitment, and through the commitment, I must say, of the people involved in the Four Corners program and Professor Patrick McGorry, we got funding for 2 health Headspace centres that were overlaid by youth early psychosis centres. Those centres saved lives and continue to save lives. And I think, notwithstanding some of the commitments and discussions that have been put and figures being put about the federal government, on a number of occasions, those two Headspaces, through the abolition of the Medicare local healthcare networks and now the devolution to the private health networks, create uncertainty, does not lead those staff to continue to be able to provide guarantee of service to the community. And the other thing that's quite critical in both of those 2 Headspaces, particularly the Headspace in Narre Warren, which caters to a high youth growth belt, is the fact that the federal government has still not guaranteed the funding for this world-leading service that's been run by Professor Simon Stafraci from the Alfred Hospital. So even though we've heard wonderful words on this Youth Mental Health Day, and we're talking about this in a bipartisan spirit, that requires the Health Minister to adequately fund that. And I know that Professor McGorry is speaking, probably as we speak with the Health Minister, to get that commitment. And I say that is a shame that the Health Minister is in this position on World Mental Health Day, regardless of the words that she said in the Parliament about her commitment to mental health, that our leading Australian psychiatrist in this field is meeting with the Health Minister to ensure that that funding for early psychosis is going to be continued to be provided to the future of our country, our young people. It says a lot. You have, I think, over 3,000 people have committed suicide in this country, 3,000 lives that have been lost. It's an epidemic. We must do something about it. We must make it a priority, and we must be bipartisan. The way in which we do is to save more lives in this country.
I thank the member.